Welcome to Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere with your host, Chris Parker.
And hello, this is Chris Parker back again, and I have another very special guest, Frank Smeets, who is part of the OpenEXO, the Exponential Innovator community, and I've been delighted to get to know him very recently. His organization, his own company, the House of Innovation, is basically coaching startups and scale-ups and doing, helping people make magic. So, Frank, welcome very much to the podcast and the video.
Great, Chris. Thank you very much for inviting me on this podcast. I'm very pleased to be here and share a little bit of my experiences in the world of business development and innovation. So, from that background, that's exactly why I'm here. So what I'm doing is I'm coaching and supporting people, entrepreneurs, managers, SMEs, startups with the development of new business and new product market technology combinations.
Nice. And have you been doing that for quite some time from our previous discussions? This has been a serious theme in your career.
Yes, about more than 25 years ago, I started with business development when I was still working with AkzoNobel. There was a new group formed, which was called Business Development. And at that time, that was quite peculiar because in that group, everything landed which didn't belong to a business unit, but which they had thoughts about that it might grow to something important. So that's where it's all started. And in 2000, the first day of this millennium, I started for myself, indeed.
Nice. And can you unpack that a little bit? Because, going into innovation already at that point, that was probably a daring move at that time? Or how did you make that decision to go independent?
The decision was made for me, in fact.
Okay.
Because that's how it goes.
As it does.
In 98, in fact, the end of that 98, the board of directors of AkzoNobel pulled the axe in the table and said, here it stops. I hope you don't get too much trouble from the airplanes flying over.
Just keep going for it.
So they said, we stop with all central research, and new business development was part of that. And so it had to be abolished or spun off. And at that time, there was not enough ground to do an MBO. Mm-hmm. So the whole technology was dismantled and everyone was sent out. They tried to find other places within the company, but I couldn't find anything that would suit me in the terms of business development. It was quite a unique position. So I decided to start with a company that was pulling on me already for 2 years at that time to do the consulting on business development. And that's how I started. And then in 2003, I completely left that company also and started my House of Innovation.
Fascinating. And over the period of that time, the definition of innovation has changed. The society has changed. I'm curious, how do you make decisions, as an entrepreneur working on the House of Innovation, keeping that entity alive? How do you make decisions on what to focus on in this whole giant jungle of things to innovate?
Yeah, that was a struggle in the beginning, and it has taken me some time. The first years were more directed at creating co-funding, subsidies for companies. And later on, I decided to concentrate myself on high tech. And that was added later on again with medtech and agrotech. At that time, it wasn't called high tech so much, but it was more on embedded systems, sensor technology. Mechatronics was just coming up very strongly. So that's the area where I started.
Nice.
And, supporting on innovation is something, in the beginning it was more directed on arranging co-finance in fact. But gradually that transformed further into the real support of developing systems to innovate, developing systems to transfer ideas into products in the market.
Yeah. What I've appreciated in our conversations is when you talk about, at least, so I'm going to test this with you a little bit. This is my interpretation. When you talk about innovation, it seems to be much more than just the thought, the ideas, but you seem to really lean in and actually execute and actually create. And that, I think a lot of people seem to sell innovation as a sort of corporate theater of brainstorming, but you seem to have a track record of delivering. So what's the secret sauce in that? How do you make that work?
Well, for me, the definition for innovation is a new idea in the market. So having a product or a service in the market, then you have an innovation. Before that time, it's just an idea.
Yeah.
You can work that out, you can work on it, you can develop that, but it's still an idea until it lands in the market and people start buying it. Right. Then only you have the innovation. So the goal is always being present in the market.
Would you agree that it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration then?
Yeah, you can always discuss on the numbers, but that's about the direction.
Yeah,
indeed.
So, nice. Well, can you and also my own curiosity, but also maybe an opportunity for you to position your services a bit. Can you explain a little bit what an engagement would look like? Like who is your perfect customer? What is their perfect problem, and what is the perfect outcome?
The perfect outcome to start with is being present in the market in a successful way, with a sustainable service or product that is helping mankind further. That's the outcome. The start of it, what's my ideal customer? There's so many ideal customers. All have their own requirements and all have their own specific needs. It depends so much on the technology, on the business they're in, on the business chain they're in, how close they are to what's present in the market or how far are they away from it. The challenge is to find new ways. I mean, with every new product, you have to create a new business model, my opinion. And I look at it from a technical commercial point of view. And if it concerns that, I'm the guy who you have to have. If it's more about personal development or team coaching or something like that, there are people that are much better than me. So my ideal customer is having some issues with the technical commercial side of things. And well, I can help them out with looking from a fresh perspective, bringing in some methodologies and some canvases that will help them to structure their thinking and structure their way of working.
Nice. I know that there's some things that you're working on that you can't always share at the moment, but maybe can you share one of these wild success stories that when you think back was your perfect project?
Well, a project I've been working on, which is in fact a successful product or a successful story, is last year I had a coaching with a company that was set up by a few people who came out of the college. And they had an idea and they wanted to have a social company, and they had an idea about bringing something to the market, which in fact was quite a nice product. But the whole construction of the company was not really good. I mean, these guys were living on half a minimum wage, and how they did it, I don't know, but they did. And with that, they could build up some market, but yeah, it wasn't really sustainable. and I helped them to transfer their whole business to a company that was much more mature in bringing this further.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys got a number of the guys got a job over there, and came at rest, and the internal tension disappeared, and they were much more prone on going forward with the good guidance from someone who had daily input on their business. So that was quite good, in fact, and I think it was good to dissolve this company. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is that I had a customer who is dealing with a knowledge institute, and they're developing all kind of things. And the knowledge institute business development group is trying to get the maximum out of it, and he was struggling with that. So I helped him out in structuring his deal making. Mm-hmm. And that brought everything into an acceleration, and it went very fluently and nicely to good contracts, and he got paid in time and everything, in spite of the corona crisis and everything. And in spite of the first threats that they would stop paying.
Well, nice. So when you define your space as really the technical commercial, the commercial definition doesn't mean sales of the product or service. It's really the commercial domain of the business, and even deal making and even that M&A aspect of it.
It's the business, the business side of it. It's not so much the commercial, but business side. Yeah. Indeed.
Oh, nice. And I'm just curious, the individuals out of college or university, and they had been hustling and suffering, was it an emotional issue or journey that you had to help them with in order to sort of, give up, so to speak, and sell out? Or was this really seen as a beautiful next horizon? Like, I can imagine those must have been tough discussions.
Yeah, what I did is I kept the picture on the horizon sharp. Mm-hmm. Where are you standing in 5 years from now, and how do you achieve that? And I guided them to get a picture of how that looked like. And in that picture, they saw that the way to get there was blocked by the way they were acting at that moment. Mm-hmm. So they had to find a new way to get there, because they were still having a warm heart for their technology and their proposition. But the internal tensions were building up so fast that I said, you have to step back now. And from each person, look at what are you going to bring there, and how do you do that? And addressing the needs which they couldn't fulfill amongst each other. They could fulfill that if they could bring it to another party. Mm-hmm. So with that, the transfer was made much easier.
Nice. And having known you, not super closely, but for a bit, you do have this trusting, coaching approach. Like I can imagine that, having that conversation with you would be probably more possible with some other people, because it's also with your experience and your outlook. I'm curious, is this I'm going to go down the EXO, exponential organization path now. So we're going a little off our script. But a lot of the exponential organization work that I've seen is people coming up with ways to benefit humanity and problem solution definitions, and then leaning in a lot on the technical side. I can imagine that your sort of business acumen and that commercial perspective could really benefit. Can you share a little bit on why you're spending your precious time investing in the EXO community, and I guess what do you hope to give to the community, and what do you hope to get?
when I got acquainted with EXO, it was for me a sort of coming home feeling.
Mm.
Why? The reason is because I'm a backcaster. I'm not a forecaster. I'm a backcaster.
Okay.
Not a forecaster.
Do tell.
The point, the way in which I have been working for so many years already is that I try to figure out how does the world work in 5, 10, 15, 30 years from now. What is there? How does it work? How do people interact? How does society function?
Mm-hmm.
And try to find out what is my place there and help other people to do the same thing. So what is your place in that environment? And from there, you can trace back what you need to get there. Same as Elon Musk is doing with his SpaceX thing. So when I came into the EXO community, I finally found a lot of people who were doing, in fact, the same thing. They look at the trends, they look at the developments, they try to imagine the future in a better way. Mm-hmm. And to imagine the future, how it will work. And that was for me the coming home. So that was touching base for me, and that's what I want to further explore. On top of that, what I found very good in the EXO community is that they have developed some templates along which you can work to identify what are the trends that I have to take care of, that I have to look at, and how do I develop a template which allows me flexibility in steering in another direction if there was too much pressure from another side. So that makes it very useful for me, for helping my customers. Well, with this community, which is a very positive community, looking at planet, people, and then a long time nothing, and only then profit. I think we have a very good network that I can always tap into and get other specialists from.
It's a brilliant network. The thinkers and doers and the mix of futurists and very practical people. For those that are listening that are not familiar with Exponential organizations, there's a book of the same name that you can find everywhere. There's also a follow-up book called Exponential Transformations. And then there's essentially an open community of exponential thinkers and doers called OpenEXO, Open Exponential Organizations, at openexo.com. And on there's you can register for free, and then there's a foundations course and certification you can do for free, just to, because they're really looking to educate the world and help as many, I think, startups, initiatives, ideas, take advantage of exponential attributes, technologies, mindset in order to improve the world. So big plug for OpenEXO there. No, beautiful. And maybe we can tease a little bit if you're okay with this, because in November we're thinking about doing an EXO conference for the Benelux region.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit on because this was your idea? What is your dream and ambition for that moment here in the region?
To make people aware of what's going on in the outside world. Everyone is so much busy with day-to-day practice, and especially now getting back into business, where you have the feeling the world has changed, but I can't see it. So what I want to bring is a lamp to this community to look around, and now you can see.
Yeah.
And take your advantage, and there are plenty of people willing to help you to sort that out. It's not necessarily me. Plenty of people that can help you out and can guide you to get into a much more resilient state of affairs. That even if there is a second COVID epidemic or pandemic or whatever you have, If there is a crisis, if there is a huge setback in the economy, you will have your tools to deal with that.
Yeah, and there's a group of us sort of planning that, if you will, or picturing that. And my hope is it will not only be, talking heads like this, but also, hopefully in person and also practical. So get some initiatives that people are actually doing, and wrap the community and the energy around that, and have that, how to give that a boost. So great. Sorry for that side path down the EXO rabbit hole, but that's what was one of the bonding factors between you and I.
Yes.
So coming back to your business, you are working with yourself, I think, or maybe a network, but for a solopreneur or an entrepreneur that's essentially knowledge based. What are your tactics on continuing to grow your business, either in scale of business or in quality of work? How have you been able to perfect that over time?
Well, that's something I'm still working on.
Wait, okay, we need to stop now because if there's no silver bullet for that one, no, I think that's I think everyone is always working on that.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I restarted my own company, in fact, in end of 2018, because in the 11 years before that, I had about 70% of my time dedicated as being a business developer in a knowledge institute, in the valorization, in the TTO department. So that took up quite a lot of time, and alongside, I established a new company for myself to develop a specific product that I wanted to check to bring to the market as an intermediary product between what people are doing now and full automation. So that was quite something, which failed, unfortunately, for technical reasons. And I had to stop that also in the end of 2018. So then I decided now I'm going back to my own house of innovation and then reinstall everything. So I'm with a fresh look. I've been taking up things. I've done quite a lot of courses on that, and the main thing is, in fact, you have to prove the world that you are that you have some authority in the field you're busy in. So I'm working on that with developing systems in the background that support that with publications and articles, blogs, whatever you have, being active in the social networks. And that all adds up to my visibility. Also, I've applied in a number of networks with where you find startups and new developments on national and European level, where I'm registered as a coach. So that helps in being visible in the community and to people that I do not know yet.
Yeah, I think it's always a constant journey, anyways, because the market's changing as well. So things are evolving. So now, regarding reaching out to you, because we still have another 5-6 minutes left, but if people want to keep up to date and also maybe hear about the EXO conference possibly in November, I'm looking at your website. Is there a newsletter option there, or is there another way?
No, not yet. I do some articles there. The main channel along which I communicate is at the moment LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile, Frank Smeets. Yeah. That's very easy. My name with a hyphen in between. And houseofinnovation.nl is the website that people can have a look at also. Yeah,
nice. Okay, so I will ensure we put both of those links in the show notes and in the information on this as well. So nice. Can you? I'm just really curious about. Someone said recently that startups are hard to work with because they have no money and they're very high maintenance. So I'm curious if you think that's true or not. And in either case, how do you manage to deliver value in a difficult situation? Because startups, of course, are low cash typically, and also are hustling. They're really, really, really busy. So, how do you deliver your value, I guess, is my question.
Well, I deliver my value whatever the cash is. Let me put it that way. The question, I think, more behind this is how do you get cash when you're delivering your value? And there are in the Netherlands and in Europe a number of schemes that people get some extra funding for hiring a coach. I'm working through those systems, of course. And sometimes there are SMEs that say, okay, this is valuable for me, so I just spend some money on that. And I'm flexible in the remuneration form, if that is straight cash or if that's something that will come back in the future once it gets successful.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to do that because I'm convinced I can help people to make successful product introductions and good marketing propositions. So I'm very confident that money will come back in due course.
Yeah, it's a bit of a knowledge I have or belief I have is, if you give first, then it will give back. And I also like the style of being very flexible. I like to also pay what you can or pay what you value.
It's quite peculiar. It's very peculiar that I found that if you give to the world will care for you. Yeah. And it's sometimes amazing where new opportunities come from. I just got an inquiry from Saudi Arabia.
Great. Yeah.
So where does that come from? I mean, from my network, yes, but I never expected that.
Yeah. I can probably imagine the names in your network if it's EXO related. That there's some people out there in the Middle East doing really cool.
That wasn't
EXO
even
stuff.
EXO related.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. No, marvelous. So, well, Frank, we're starting to wrap up. So one of the questions I'd love to ask at the end is about simplifying life or business. Do you have any tip, technique, book, recommendation, anything on what you have done to simplify your life and make that more productive or more joyful?
All my attempts to simplify life have been resultless. Life always finds ways to be more complicated than you want it.
Yeah.
So to start with that, but or maybe I should say and always keep the horizon in the picture, because that's where you all want to go. If you can define sharply what your horizon looks like, people say, okay, I'm going to help to achieve that, and all bring their own capabilities. So that's always very good. On the road to that horizon, I found a very interesting mechanism. If there are conflicts and you get some tension and you can't see where you find the solution for things, make the playing field bigger. Because that allows you to think up out of the box thinking. It's not out of the box thinking, it's putting the box in a bigger box. Or putting it outside the box in the field and look at the field where you can approach the box.
Yeah, which is perhaps, people thinking of simplifying, oftentimes that means minimizing, but in this case, expanding can give you more options in order to make it maybe more easy or more simple for you to make decisions. So, wow, Frank, thank you so much. We need to wrap up, but I think we could keep talking for a lot longer, but we've got this 30-minute window. Thank you so much for joining and sharing.
My pleasure.
I will put the LinkedIn and the website in the notes, so then people can keep in touch.
That's great.
Particularly if they need some business development done on initiatives with yourself, and also the EXO event that we're looking towards in November. Right.
Yeah, people will meet us there for sure.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Frank.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Learn more at ebullient.com/podcast.